There's a new adventure hero stuck in a cage, and it's your job to get him out. This time it's Stormborn. He's got the beard of a Viking, the biceps of a barbarian, and an axe crackling with thunder. But electric weapons will only get you so far. In this video, we'll see if the Stormborn will shock the late game, or just become static background noise on your shelf of heroes. I'll break Stormborn down piece by piece. We'll get going with his globals, then sneak a survey of his skill set, before finally finishing with his forge. The more synergies we see across all three, the higher our hopes will heighten. Sorry for all the alliteration, I just got in a groove there and I couldn't stop when I was writing. So grab your helmet and charge your axe as we take Coles' first look at this new stunner of a hero. By the way, I'm Coles, a high-level HVH player, on the grind for 1,000 subscribers. If you find this video helpful in understanding how Stormborn works, please consider subscribing. For now, let's see if Stormborn brings the thunder or fizzles out in the storm. Whenever I first look at a hero, I take a look at their base stats. There's some interesting tidbits in the Stormborns. The first to note is that he's a melee hero with close range that auto-aims. Next, he gets 5% cooldown for hitting level 10. Any innate cooldown in your kit is great because it helps make progression through normal mode and hard mode easier. But hidden in the middle of his levels is the big modifier I've never seen before. Buried in his level progression is a 1.5 times damage to stunned horde. 1.5 times damage! I've never seen that level of multiplier anywhere in this game before, giving him tremendous upside when you can stun horde. Lastly, just looking at his kit, you see that he's part of the Warriors Guild. That means he'll both give and gain boosts to a bunch of free-to-play heroes like Blade Master, Paladin, and Knight, which makes now as good a time as ever to talk about his globals. Now, not to bust your bubble right away, but the Stormborn's globals are bottom tier. His 3 truly global buffs from his level progression are all just amps to damage, and the base 12.5% version of it. Those are essentially the worst globals in the game. So hopefully we'll find some redemption in his... Nope, it's not there. His 3-star forge is a damage multiplier to stunned horde, and not many heroes have stuns built into their kits, meaning that global, while a nice multiple to damage, is not going to apply to the vast majority of your roster. I mentioned earlier that the Stormborn is part of the Warriors Guild, which means that his faction bonus at level 90 is going to buff other warriors, and in this case it's plus 50% damage. So, all in, his globals are garbage. But the last hero had really good globals, so I guess they're kind of balancing each other out. That being said, I think they'll make up for it with his skills and his forge. Quickly glancing through his skills, you'll see he has 1 very standard skill and 2 very intriguing skills. So let's start off with the standard one first. Electric Cleave throws a chain lightning that bounces between 7 enemies every 1 second. This will remind you a lot of the Plague Keeper's first skill. But unlike the Plague Keeper, this only hits 7 enemies, not all the ones it passes through, which means it has a lower damage potential. Think of something like Guild Event, which has 30,000 potential horde to clear. If this clears 7 horde every 1 second over 5 minutes, this will only clear 2,100 horde, or less than 10% of the total. That means it's going to be better in modes with fewer horde. And that's what I call foreshadowing. Which brings me to his second skill, Stormguard. And that's where things get intriguing. Stormguard gives Stormborn a shield that blocks 5 sources of damage. When the shield breaks, it explodes, dealing AoE damage and stunning horde for 3 seconds. 3 seconds is the longest stun in the game that I can remember, beating out even something like Shield Warden's 2-second stun. This is the first instance of a stun that we've seen anywhere in his kit. What makes it interesting is that it requires you to get hit in order to proc. That makes it tailor-made for end-of-game content, like Arena or the end of hard mode, Nightmare mode, and Hero Clash. Which, for you guys playing at home, makes a pattern of 2 skills aimed for content with a lower horde count. His ultimate, the Wrath of the Stormfather, causes his weapon to start throwing off chain lightning and causes all chain lightnings to stun for 2 seconds. Depending on how long it takes to charge, this could be another helpful skill for Nightmare mode. At the very least, it's a nice combination of damage and disruption. Like all new adventure heroes, his damage and his skills scales tremendously well with star level, so you won't really unlock his true potential at least until star level 3 and probably closer to star level 4. However, that takes a long time to collect all the hero shards, so he's gonna be a big investment, just like the investment you're gonna have to make in his forge. Ah, the fun part, taking a look into the Stormborn's forge. The forge has become my favorite part of recent hero design. The best heroes have forges that improve their skills and not their weapons. Stormborn doesn't disappoint when it comes to the forge. The first level of the forge offers you two choices to improve Electric Cleave, his first skill. You can go left and opt for Stormlink, which will increase the number of bounces by 3 to Electric Cleave. That's the equivalent to a 42.5% increase, going from 7 to 10 total jumps in the chain lightning. Or you can go right and select a 20% chance to stun, which will give you more disruption and more survivability. And you guys know what that looks like to me. A meaningful decision. As I learned from Mort Dog, meaningful decisions are the best parts of video games. And this is a perfect example of one. You can go left to amp his damage, or go right to increase your survivability. Love it! His level 2 forge offers even more meaningful decisions. This time, you'll have two really interesting choices around his level 80 skill, Stormguard. You can go left for more damage and a higher skill cap by lowering the number of blocks that the shield will do, but also reducing the cooldown. Because you have fewer blocks, you'll be able to proc it more often. And since the cooldown is lower, you can also proc it more often. But now his shield won't last as long, so you're gonna have to juggle the horde from hitting you and not hitting you a little better. Or you can go right and add more charges to his shield if you want to play more defensively and aren't so worried about capping out your damage. As I foretold earlier, everything in this guy's kit was made for Nightmare mode. Because you get all of this disruption at a low level of forge, he reminds me a lot of something like Werebeast, who you don't need to invest a ton in to make viable in the later stages of Nightmare mode. And we're only halfway through the forge here. At level 3, we already talked about it. It's a 1.05 multiple to damage against stunned horde. Again, very helpful for him because he stuns everybody, but most heroes don't, so not great for your whole roster. Then his level 4 forge converts his main weapon into Storm Splitter. Storm Splitter causes stunned enemies to have the potential to unleash a tremendous thunderquake. Unfortunately, I don't know what the heck a thunderquake is. Does it stun horde? Does it do more damage? Someone needs to explain what Thunderquake is somewhere before you just kind of throw it out there. But if I had to bet, it's going to be some kind of AoE damage, and it might stun because based on the fact that everything else stunned. However, it procs off of stunned horde dying, so maybe it doesn't stun more horde. We're gonna have to do some testing there. The 5th level in the forge lets you go left to create an area of effect wake of damage behind the Storm Splitter, or you can go right and increase your damage by 1.3 times. I kind of feel like Freywood put together this awesome hero kit, got really bored by the end, and said, screw it, let's just make it a 1.3 multiple to damage. And while I'm giving him a hard time for that, what is actually interesting here is it shows you what he values a 5th level forge. A 1.3 multiple to damage is what you can expect to get from other heroes' 5th level forge. And that's the first time I think we've ever seen that explicitly written out. So Freywood's laziness is our benefit. And I'm giving him a hard time, because everything considered, this is fantastic hero design. You're getting meaningful choices in the 1st and 2nd forge, which is the most accessible to the largest player base. Additionally, because of how his shield mechanic works, you're actually going to need some skill in order to pilot the hero. Better players will be able to strategically juggle being hit by horde and not being hit by horde in order to maximize their damage. Hopefully, this all translates into a quality all-around hero for players of all levels and all skill caps. So, what do I think of Stormborn at the end of the day? In my opinion, he's going to be a very solid pick for Nightmare mode, much like Werebeast, where a limited amount of investment will get you pretty far in that game type. Combine that fact with the way that you can change his skills through the level 1 and level 2 forges, and you have a very interesting hero that you'll be able to use in all types of content. Key to whether or not he becomes an active player or just another shelf hero is whether or not you have the skill to pilot him as you manage his Stormguard and all of his stuns. Only time will tell if Timu Thor can stand up to his big brothers in the guild, like Warlord, Monk, and Knight. Here's to hoping he's the stunner I think he'll be. And I'm Coles, a high-level HVH player and part of a top 10 guild. Join my Patreon if you want priority answers to your questions and early access to videos. You can also become an executive producer, like the executive producers of this video, Cake Invictus, Riverwind, and the Wubba. Please subscribe if you like the video, And remember, always do your adventures!